I don't think these obscure movies will do me any favors with views, but what are you gonna do? We need to talk about things we actually enjoy, right? But for those who value Rotten Tomatoes scores, you'll want to watch this. Also, if I look like I'm breaking my t-shirt theme, the studio that made this is French-Belgian, so I'm somewhat on brand still. I can't remember how I came across this movie, but I love European art and animation, purely because their visual style in both comics and animated shows and movies is always unique. I mean, you'll see it as we go, but this cartoon has that old school, hand-drawn looking art style that made the older shows look way more expensive than the newer ones. The film is a June 2017 anthology comedy that is presented as a stage play with 3 segments that are all linked together by a frame narrative. The internet says that a frame narrative is a literary technique that serves as a companion piece to a story within a story. But enough of that nerdy literature jargon. If you've seen my previous videos, you know I go on a lot of tangents, but you also know that I prefer to discuss the audience experience of a thing rather than how the thing was made. Hopefully this week I can keep it succinct and less rambly. My videos always go on longer than intended. So it starts out on stage, and I like how they build out the set, but when the play begins, the stage turns into a full world on a farm. Such transitions would usually be jarring to me, but if you can roll with Calvin and Hobbes, the suspension of disbelief won't be too taxing on your mind. Once you get into this beautiful immersive setting on this animal farm, you just go with it. The first act starts out really simple, and for someone like me who had no familiarity whatsoever with this, I bought into the premise immediately. The pig loves to garden, and the duck and the rabbit are his foils through the story. If you've watched Winnie the Pooh, this trope is not unfamiliar. They always set up Rabbit with OCD and then bring in Tigger to mess everything up. I have to say, as someone who tries to maintain order in my surroundings, this cartoon trope always bothers me. It's like how I loved Dennis the Menace as a kid, but I tried watching it recently and I realized I've turned into Mr. Wilson. Dennis was just pissing me off. Sorry, let's focus. Just when you fear that the whole act will be about these 2 clowns destroying the pig's garden, a plot twist falls out of the sky into their hands. This lazy stork tries to get out of delivering a baby and passes off the responsibility on our 3 main characters, who are extremely gullible. Their dynamic remains, but the plot shifts in many unexpected ways. Duck and Rabbit keep coming up with the worst ideas, and Pig has to rescue the situation at every turn.
He's got fangs and fur, a tail and fangs! Sorry, Mr. Wolf, he's always in a rush. We, on the other hand...
The characters are very British, by the way, but they meet up with characters who have other European accents, so we can assume that it's firmly set in Europe. If the visuals don't tell you that, the accents will.
We know all about that town. We go there every summer.
Also, you have to hear this. Oh man. As things get sillier and more dangerous, you have to admire how nonchalant the rabbit and the duck were. When watching movies as a kid with the family, some characters would do really dumb and dangerous things, and my dad always said fools never die. That's definitely true here. But while they're both dumb, Rabbit is more of an idiot while Duck is more of a moron. You'll understand when you watch it. And did I mention that I like looking at this film? I could watch it with the sound off, but it's really funny, so I guarantee you'll watch it more than once. With the sound on, as the TikTok kids say. I won't narrate the whole thing, but the humor is consistent, the script is sharp, and it has some good old heartfelt moments. Things also continue to get completely out of hand, but in that cool way that ties everything back together through hilarious coincidence. This is definitely one of those don't let them know your next move type of stories, because it's very unpredictable, but it has such a satisfactory ending. It's funny for the kids, but with relevant commentary about parenthood and the vanity of acting as a profession.
What do you make of my performance?
You need to get off.
The second act of the play is a common fox versus hen trope, but the fox here was a little pathetic, literally and figuratively. Nobody took him seriously, so he was allowed to just waltz into the farm every day and go up to the chicken coop. And this scene just looked more like harassment than anything else. So it's established that nobody fears the fox or respects him, but this is where things take a twist. It turns out that Fox is being mentored by the big bad wolf to get him his next chicken meal. The wolf comes up with a new scheme for the fox to steal the hen's eggs so they can hatch them and eat them. Wolf is out here playing the longest long game I've ever seen. But he is patient, I'll give him that. By the way, when I was a kid, I thought the fox and the wolf were the same animal. I don't know why. And more harassment. So Fox eventually manages to steal the eggs, which kicks off the main story of the second act. The act would be over at this point, but once they hatch, they think the fox is their mom. So the wolf tells the fox to let them grow and fatten up so they can have a bigger meal later on. Talk about a lesson in delayed gratification. That's super relevant today. We're learning all kinds of things here. So the chicks are very cute, and I'm sure parents will really relate to this particular act. There's even a weird co-parenting message in there by the end. Oh boy. You'll have to watch that yourself to see how everything shakes out, but I promise it won't be exactly how you expect. Also, there's that sound again. Oh boy. Cracks me up every time. You should be seeing the cast on your screen now because they were really good in this. I think it's only fair to show them some love as well. The final act was a Christmas story. I don't know why, but I've never enjoyed Christmas plays or Christmas-focused episodes on shows. Probably because they tend to be samey and a little pandering, I feel. But fortunately, as I already established in the first act, this trio is very dysfunctional and there's nothing predictable about them. Their ridiculous hijinks at trying to cosplay as Santa Claus get them into a lot of trouble and they end up in a dog pound. This scene is funny for kids, but adults will understand it as a first day of prison joke, where they have to pretend to be Santa Claus and his elves so that they don't get hurt. This act gets very ridiculous, just like the first one, and I feel like if this was made by a big American studio, these three goofs would probably have been popular mascots by now. They have a really funny dynamic together, and I wouldn't mind getting some merch of the three of them for my desk. Overall, I highly recommend this film. It's totally one of those that was made to entertain both young and old alike. It's quite rewatchable, and you can tell everyone who was involved in it wanted to make art, whether visually or in the storytelling or in the performances. It's nothing like the typical Hollywood production. It feels like a European play, and they really committed to the bit in a way that you'll never see on those cynical award show skits. Do they even do those anymore? I haven't watched an awards show in years. Also, their approach to get you to sit through the credits was much smarter than Marvel movies, cause you actually keep your eyes on the screen the whole time, rather than discussing the movie with the random stranger sitting next to you, and judging the people walking out of the theater while waiting for the post-credits scene. You know you do it. Overall, I highly recommend this as just a great family film. The mix of slapstick humor and dry wit really cuts across all ages and tastes. So that's all I got for this one, and I'm kind of proud of myself for keeping it short. Check out The Big Bad Fox and Other Tales if you haven't seen it before, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.